Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and we're actually redoing this interview today. Really embarrassing, like recording things. You guys will find out as you do your own recordings, either on YouTube or all that, that sometimes you just have an epic fail. So our guest was gracious enough to come back again today. So before we get started, I want to remind you, go over and like our YouTube channel, Super Brand Publishing. You can see all the videos of these podcasts over there. And you know what? You're watching us, you're listening to us, Promote, Profit, Publish, subscribe, and leave us a review. We would love to have some more reviews. So today's guest is Laura Ann Briggs. And this is really interesting. We're going to talk about hiring VAs, outsourcing, what to outsource, and sort of being a freelancer too. And Laura has such an interesting story because like two of my former VAs, she is a military wife. And for those of you who don't know, military wives have a bit of like it's hard to go to a new town and start a job because their husbands move a lot. Or, you know, if you're a military male spouse, your wife gets transferred a lot. And I know just in the course of my last VA that I had that was military, we were together 3 years and I think they moved 4 or 5 times. Her husband kept getting promoted. So Laura is a former school teacher turned entrepreneur, freelance writer, and author. Her first book, How to Start Your Own Freelance Writing Business, won the 2019 Author Academy Awards Best in Business Prize. She's a 2-time TEDx speaker and now coaches advanced freelancers on how to scale their businesses to the 6-figure level. So welcome, and again.
Hey, I'm thrilled to be here both times, so no worries.
Well, thank you. So a lot of my people, they try to use VAs. There's a lot of, they don't know what they're getting, how much is reasonable, should they have more than one? And I think I shared with you my story about my first real VA was $80 an hour, and she was doing things that should have been $20 an hour. So how do you balance and manage all that?
Well, no matter who you hire, they should be doing tasks, the majority of their tasks, within an hourly range amount that you feel comfortable with. So if there's only maybe 1 or 2 things they do in your package that are really worth $80 an hour, that might not be the right VA fit if most of what they're doing is more down in the $25 or $30 an hour range. There are different types of VAs. Your beginner VAs and your more general VAs will charge a lower hourly rate. Your more experienced people, so your online business managers, somebody who knows Infusionsoft or Entreport like the back of their hand, they will charge more in the higher hourly ranges because they have those skill sets. So leverage the person for the skill sets they have within that hourly range amount. You don't want to be paying too much for somebody who's doing really simple tasks like data entry or some research that you could definitely outsource just as effectively for less.
And that is such great advice because I think I pay my Infusionsoft VA when I had Infusionsoft. I've changed now, but I think she was $57 an hour and she was pretty cheap for Infusionsoft. But I also have a VA that posts social media that's $25 an hour. And I literally, she does not create that. I want to just stress that to you guys. That's not somebody who creates it. I do my own content calendar. I post, you know, I tell her what to post. So pretty good ranges for what we're getting here.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. So when you make your list of what you're thinking about outsourcing, you don't want to dump it all on one person. So you have a really great model. A lot of people make the mistake of they map out this big list of 15 or 20 tasks they want done, and then they go looking for this one magical person they think can do it all. It is far more effective to say, okay, I've got like maybe 2 or 3 different types of tasks here. Maybe this group of tasks isn't urgent, so I'm going to table it for now. But these 2 groups might be 2 different people. So not trying to force someone who's really good at Infusionsoft to try to learn or manage social media, which is something that you could probably outsource for less money. So it's smart to sort your tasks into different categories. So when I hired one VA, she was a content manager. It was her job to publish blogs, publish YouTubes, videos, and publish podcasts. And so they were a little bit different, but all in that same general category. So I felt confident that her hourly rate was in accordance with the type of tasks that I was outsourcing to her.
hmm And you guys remember, there are some agencies out there too where you can go and get that one size fits all, which I did have for a while. But remember that the owner of the agency is going to mark up that work as well. So you probably, it depends on what you want. If you want that person managed for you, it might be worth it to you. If you feel like you can manage, then go for that person that's a little bit less, that's not going to be marked up. I think would be a good way to go too. So you work with people who want to be freelancers. Let's address that first.
Sure.
What are some things that people need to know if they want to go out and do freelance writing, or they want to be a VA? What do they need to know about getting their own business?
Well, first of all, don't believe the Facebook ad hype. We all see those people who have a picture of themselves with a laptop or somebody in a stock photo on a beach drinking a Mai Tai and claiming that they make six figures as a freelancer.
Yes.
I know nobody who's like that, right? Like everybody puts in some level of work. Now, can you get paid really well for what you do? Do you have flexibility in your schedule? Can you live almost anywhere? Yes, all of those things are true. But I would say expect to work, especially when you first start, because no one's going to bring you clients. So you have to create all of your own opportunities. It's also a really good fit for people who are very deadline driven and great communicators and also great salespeople. Being a freelancer is selling you and your services all day long. So if you hate sales, I met a freelancer like this a couple months ago, and he's like, I don't have any clients. And so we talked through his strategy, and I said, so you're doing no pitching? And he's like, yeah, well, I hate sales. And I'm like, this is not the business for you to be in. If you feel super awkward on every sales call, you're going to struggle over and over.
Yeah, that is so, so true. And don't we all read The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I know so many entrepreneurs, and you'll totally resonate with this. They will come to me and want my services and say, here's what I want. I want the cash machine. And you guys, I'm here to tell you the cash machine is a myth. You will find
Yes.
it when you find the Loch Ness monster floating around. It'll be in a little buoy around its neck.
Yeah.
All of us work in this industry.
And why wouldn't everyone be doing it if it were that simple, right? Like every single person would quit their day job and create a cash machine today if they could.
Exactly. Now there are some benefits, like Laura said, like I do get to work from home. My commute is about 15 feet from my bedroom to my office in the morning.
Yep.
But and I can work anywhere in the country, as can VAs, but you also miss the connection to people, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That is something to be prepared for. I think isolation is a real challenge. I am an introvert and I like working alone, but even for me, sometimes it gets to be too much. So if you're the type of person who loves those water cooler chats at the office, you might want to consider working from a co-working space at least a couple days a week, or going to the coffee shop a couple mornings a week. I also plan activities that are outside of my house that involve groups of people, so that I am, whether it's an exercise class or a painting class or whatever, so that you're getting out and about. And as I like to say, speaking to other humans that are not in the entrepreneur world. It's a good tactic to have, because we're very good at talking our language, but it's important to be around other people too and relate to them.
Yes, it definitely is. I always kind of laugh at the people who I have this thing I talk about in talks where, your first day of being your own boss is like amazing. You show up to your desk, you're dressed up, you got your drink, you're so excited. And by month 4, you really get how stressful it is. And you're
Yeah.
sitting there in unwashed, in your PJ. The dog is looking at you like, dude, just shower, like get a life. Because people don't realize
Mm.
how much work it really is
Yeah.
wearing all the hats in the company.
It is, because you're CEO, CFO, CTO, VP of marketing. You are literally every department as one person. And some parts of that you might like at first. Like you said, you might be like, oh, there's variety in this. It's awesome. But once your business starts to grow and your ability to have your time shifts into working on client projects, then you go, I can't wear all these hats. And that's where you need to start thinking about outsourcing at least some of these tasks to another person, because otherwise you get stuck on the hamster wheel of working in the business rather than working on it and growing it.
So when you're doing this, tell me if you agree on this, you need to outsource those things that you don't like to do, those
Yes.
things that you avoid, and work right in your zone of genius.
Yes, or the things that you're not good at. I will be upfront and say, I am terrible at graphic design. No one wants to see anything I have made in Canva. My graphic designer has actually asked me to delete stuff that I tried to make in there because she says, I go in and it offends me. And I'm like, all right, delete it, you know? So if you're not good at it, it probably takes you 10 times longer. If you don't like doing it, you're going to procrastinate on it. Those are the perfect tasks if they are business necessary. So social media might be another example where you're like, wow, that just really drains me. I don't want to do it. I could do part of the process and, like you're doing, pass it off to a VA. That's a great approach to take with it, because the more time you can spend in your zone of genius or recharging and thinking big picture, the better your business is going to be for it. Because you should, if you charge $200, $500, $1,000 an hour, don't be doing those $20 an hour tasks.
That is so true. And just complete transparency here from a neuromarketing standpoint, you guys, I can tell when you're not good at Canva. It's out of proportion. The colors are wrong. It looks weird. So hire a professional to do that for you, because it is really bad.
Yes.
So that brings us to how do you hire these people? How do you know who's the right person? A lot of different places to hire them too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it comes down to 3 core elements. You want to have a great job description. You want to interview your candidates. Yes, even if this is someone who's only going to work 5 hours a week, you still want to have at least a 10-minute conversation. And then you want to kick things off with a paid trial period or a test job. When you have a really well-written job description, people will comment on it. They will also know exactly what their responsibilities are. I just hired an executive assistant last week, and all 5 of the people I interviewed were like, thank you for writing a job description that literally broke down like percentages of time that you expected to spend on various tasks. And it was very, each section said like software you have to know or be willing to learn right away. So the more time you put into the job description, the easier it is to attract the right candidates. And the people who are the wrong fit will go, oh, I don't really fit like any of these requirements, so I'm not even going to submit my application. Mm-hmm. Once you get several different, multiple different applications. I've gotten anywhere from 20 to over 100 applications for VA positions. I use Google Forms to capture their information so I can port it into a spreadsheet, and I will literally do a quick scan. Anybody who's way too expensive, way too cheap, doesn't have the right experience, I will just color that line red and then delete it. And what I'm looking for are my greens, which are like standout people, and then yellow, which is if I don't have enough great people, these are the people I might consider beyond that. And that's who I interview. So you want to have a video interview. If they cannot figure out how to download Zoom and get on Zoom with you for a 10-minute interview, this is a bad sign. You want to hear, you want to hear how they talk. Whether you two gel. Do they understand the types of words you're saying and the questions that you're asking? Or are they like, oh, I've never heard of Canva before, and I just downloaded Zoom for the first time today? If the job is tech heavy, those are things you want to be aware of. And then you want to take a micro portion of something you want them to do when you hire them and give that as a test job, paid. Ideally, you want to do that with 1 to 2 candidates so that you can kind of compare. And we're not just testing for ability, but we're testing for communication. You want to set a deadline, even if it's arbitrary to you. Put a clear deadline on there. This is due in 72 hours, because we want to see who's going to wait till the last second to turn it in, who's going to wait till the morning of to ask you the questions they should have asked on day 1. And that's how the cream really rises to the top. A lot of people get surprised. Sometimes your best candidate on paper totally bombs the interview or the test job. And that's why it's always good to have someone else in the background.
And I think the last time, as I recall, the last time we talked, I had just given a test to someone, and this is why you do it, guys. 24 hours in, I was doing 24 hours, 24 hours in, she hadn't even gotten into the program. There's a signature thing where I can tell when and what time you've been in. She came back and asked for more time, and 24 hours more, she still hadn't gotten into the program, and I let her go. Mm-hmm. Here's another thing that happened with the same project. So I'm gonna give you guys another caution. When you tell someone that ask them, can we do the project this way? And they're supposed to know the software. And they say yes. And then they come back 2 hours later and say, we need to make this, this, and this change. And we can't really do it the way I told you. These are such red flags. And this one project I've had such a hard time with because people don't really, they're kind of winging it, actually.
Yeah.
So that is such good reasons to do this.
Yeah, do the test job and ask them that. Like if you're on, maybe you hired or you went through the interview process and you're thinking about bringing them on for the test job, do a screen share and say like, this is what I'm thinking. Can you confirm that this is 100% something we can do? The right person will either say yes, and I know that because X, Y, and Z, I did this project last week for someone else, or I had to customize this for myself, or they'll be upfront. And this is my favorite VA quality, when they tell me that I'm wrong and are like, actually, you can't do that. There's a workaround. And they are showing their technical expertise there in saying why it is that what I'm asking for is ridiculous, and in brainstorming potential solutions around that. So be wary of the yes man or yes woman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are some of the other red flags when you're looking? One of the things that I can think of is people go overseas. They want to work with people in the Philippines, but then they don't realize, and this has been my experience, I don't want somebody to work overnight because if they have questions, I'm asleep.
Yes, there's some challenges with outsourcing overseas. There's great people who work overseas and in different time zones. One of my online business managers in the middle of our relationship moved from Canada to Australia, and we kind of made it work for 6 months, but ultimately it was a problem, just like what you said. We needed to be able to have regular conversations, and it was too weird for all the work to be completed while I was asleep. And then I had to wait like another full work day to hear back on any of the questions. So that's something to keep in mind. You want to be mindful of cultural or language barriers as well. A lot of people don't know outsourcing to the Philippines. When you hire someone in the Philippines, they expect to receive something called the 13th month, which is an entire month of pay after December. It's like a Christmas bonus, but it's a cultural thing and they expect it. And so if you don't provide that, it's very awkward because they think then that they haven't performed well. So you want to be aware of, if I'm working with someone in a different country, are there cultural things I need to know about? Are there, work hours that I can expect? And in general, if a person's doing what I would consider lower level tasks, research, data entry, populating different fields, things like that, overseas is fine. If they're client facing, if they're writing, if they're doing some of these higher level tasks, it's very hard to find someone who you can communicate with easily. And so in that case, you tend to get what you pay for. So that goes back to categorizing those tasks. Who is the person I'm looking for? If 80% of what I need them to do is high level tasks, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and pay somebody in the United States or Canada or somewhere else like that a little bit higher rate, but the quality and the time saved from me not having to refix things and revisit stuff is going to come out as a wash in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing I've run into is people who don't pay for the meetings. You have to pay these people if you have them show up. I was growing a company out in Florida, and they didn't want to pay 5 days a week. There was a meeting at 8 a.m. Eastern time, and they didn't want to pay these guys to be at that meeting, but they required them to. So remember, when you do that, that's their time. They're exchanging time for money.
Yes, you should discuss that with your VA up front too. I mean, there's always the possibility if you put them on retainer, for example, they might tell you, oh, this retainer, you purchased at my gold level package. So you get one free 90-minute call per month. We can break it into 3 30-minute calls. But outside of that, you should expect to pay. Another red flag to be aware of, this is one for me personally. I always ask my VAs what their vision for their business is. The reason I'm asking that is it's amazing how many times I'll even say in my job description, I'm not looking for someone who has 10 other clients, because I know that my projects will be overlooked, done sloppy, turned in late when they have a million other projects going on. It's amazing how many people, when you don't ask it in that way and you say, what's your vision for your business? Like for this EA job I just interviewed for, I asked that question, and one person was like, well, it's really my goal to be an entrepreneur and scale my business up to have like 6 to 10 clients. And I was like, great. Like, I appreciate this information because you are not the right fit for what I'm hiring for right now. So that's something to ask. And, you know, if you're hiring someone on a more of an employee basis, you want to clarify that, hey, this has the potential to go to half-time or full-time. I want to know what else is on your plate. Do you have time for this or not?
Uh-huh. No, and that's great because I actually shared a VA with someone who had the VA on retainer, and you'd be shocked how many times I'd say, "Where is this?" And she'd say, "Oh, something came up for," and I'm not going to say her name, and I'd be like, "I pay you too."
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody wants to feel like that. I had a
Yeah.
business manager that did that to me once, and I constantly felt like every other client was more important than me, and that I was actually bugging her to ask for things that should have been done. And so you want to be aware of that. A lot of freelancers who are kind of new, they don't know what their limit is. And so they'll say
Mhm.
yes to every client, and you might end up getting burned in that process. So ask about that. Where are they at now? Where are they hoping that their business goes?
Oh, that's really great advice. What else should they know?
I think that it's very important to clarify your communication preferences. This is another question I ask on my Google form. How do you best receive instruction? I am terrible at creating written instructions, so I don't want to work with a VA who needs that because I'm not going to be able to give them what they need. So ask, is it video? Is it audio? Is it written instructions? Is it me doing it with you? And then we're going to record that and you're going to pass it off from there. Ask those questions so that from day one, the VA is very clear about the best way to communicate with you. That's another one I always tell mine. Please don't email me. I do not need any more emails. So please keep it in the project management tool. And you want to know that and discuss that with your VA up front, because they need to know, well, how am I supposed to ask a question? What do I do if I have something urgent, like I'm locked out of a software program and need a password reset? You want to clarify those expectations up front so they know when it is and isn't okay to interrupt you.
Right. And if you're really good at this, make a training video so that they can have a
Yes.
library of here, you go here to do this. That was
Yes.
one of the things with the company that I was assisting and growing is they refused to make those videos. And we had a steady stream of
Mm,
VAs in and out. So it was frustrating for the person leading them to have to explain every single time. So that's always helpful too if you have tasks that are repetitive or things like that. So, well,
yeah.
you guys, this has been a lot of great information. Where can we find you? You have a free giveaway.
Yes, I do. So I have a PDF that's the 24 top most profitable freelance side hustles. Also, a great place to look if you're thinking about outsourcing and wondering, well, if I don't use a general VA, who could I hire in my business as a freelancer that would save me some time? It's got information about what they do, the software they should know, and then average hourly rates for that type of freelancer. So you can get that at betterbizacademy.com/side hustle.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this again.
My pleasure. It was fun.
I promise it recorded. We both see it recording this time.
Hey, I rarely get the chance to come back and try to do better than the last time, so I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
Bye.